All right, today's question: what is expected of me as a seller on closing day? That's a fun question. And honestly, I think sometimes it's not communicated clearly enough, and that causes some of the hiccups that we have. So, my gosh, if you're thinking about selling or you're currently selling and closing day is coming up, this video is going to be helpful. Stay tuned.
You better get fired up.
What's going on, guys? Happy Friday, and it is beautiful out. We had some cold weather there, but now we've got some nice warm weather. I'm excited to get out and experience a wonderful Florida spring this weekend. I've actually got a hunting. It's not hunting. We're shooting clays event tomorrow morning, so I'm pretty excited about that. But all right, so you're a seller and you are closing on your property. Is it as simple as showing up to closing, or what exactly is it that you do? So we're going to talk about some of the different things you want to keep in consideration. Some of these things you can get done before closing day, so you can kind of set yourself up for success and not have to worry about that. The first thing is you want to cancel all of your utilities, all right? Now, what I see a lot of people do is they go under contract and then poof, they don't live there. It's vacant, so they cancel water and electric and gas and all that good stuff. The problem with that is then we have the inspector come in for the buyer and you fail a large part of that inspection, right? Because we don't have the stuff on we need on to inspect. So they're going to check the gas stove and the gas doesn't work. They're going to check the lights and the lights don't turn on because the electric's off. And they're going to run the faucets and the faucets don't work because the water's off. And boom, you just failed 60% of your inspection, right? Pretty big problem. So you want to leave them on. When do you turn them off? You should be told by your realtor to turn them off the day after closing, all right? The buyer is told to turn them on the day of closing. Now, you got a 24-hour gap right there. I should say not a gap. It's the opposite of a gap. It's a layover, right? And so now it's going to be on not only for the inspection, but for the final walkthrough, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So schedule those utilities for the day after closing and you'll be good to go. Number two, you want to clean the home. Oh my gosh, what if I'm 80 years old? You're telling me I got to get down on my hands and knees and scrub the floor and get the cobwebs out and everything else? According to the contract, it needs to be broom swept clean. Okay, so do you need to go through and pay someone $600-800 to clean the place from floor to ceiling? No, you don't need to do that. A lot of people do that. I know for me, I don't want to spend 5 hours cleaning my house. I'd rather pay someone a few $100 and have them come in and do it. But whatever you want to do, it doesn't matter. But it needs to be broom swept clean. So if we come in and you've got a bunch of cockroaches on the floor, you've got personal items sitting over in the corner, you've got a pile of dust that you had swept up but you never got out of there, that's a problem. An additional problem that a lot of people don't think about is a lot of people will leave a pile of trash in their front yard. I understand because you're cleaning everything out, but you need to leave that pile of trash early while you own it to ensure you've got time for the city, the county, a junk disposal company, whoever it is, to come out and pick it up and get it out of there for that buyer, because that's personal property. It's garbage, but it is your personal property. And that personal property contractually is not allowed to be at the property at the time of closing. So when they come through and do their final walkthrough, if you've got a mountain of trash out front, or even as little as a single mattress out front, that's personal property. If it wasn't in the contract, you could have issues. What do those issues result in? They could result in, hey, we're not going to sign until it's out of here. Or, hey, we're guessing this is going to cost $200-300. We want you to put $300 into an escrow account so we can pay to get that taken care of if it doesn't get taken care of. It could mean all kinds of things, but you don't want to cause those issues over the fact that you didn't plan to get your stuff out of there early. Just get your stuff out of there early, right? I will say this too. Moving companies, if you're having your stuff professionally moved, can be 4 to 6 weeks out, sometimes even longer. A lot of these contracts are 30 to 45 days between the time we go under contract and the time we close. You're going to want to call that company immediately and start to coordinate that move so that you do not miss out on that schedule, okay? Number 3, you want to ensure that all needed repairs are made. Joe, I got to repair everything in my house? No, you don't have to repair everything in your house. But after inspection, typically a buyer's going to come back and they're either going to do one of 3 things. Well, I suppose they could do one of 4 things. They could just cancel, right? It doesn't happen that often. Or they could just move forward, which happens maybe 20, 30, 40% of the time. Or they could say, hey, I want a credit. All these issues concern me to the extent of $2,500. So I want a $2,500 credit. And you say yes or no as a seller, right? It's up to you. It's negotiation. Or the fourth option is, hey, I want you to fix these items, 1 through 3 or whatever it is, right? If they ask for items to be fixed, you have to get them fixed before it closes. Now, typically, you're going to be asked contractually to get them taken care of ahead of time so that they can be re-inspected. Sometimes people don't want a professional to re-inspect them. They're going to re-inspect them themselves at the final walkthrough. Doesn't matter. It's up to you and the buyer how you write it up in the contract. But at a minimum, it's got to get done by closing unless otherwise stated in the contract. They're going to check those things. So make sure that you remember what those things are. You've gotten them done. I also see people, I don't know how to say this any better, but just kind of doing them half-ass. And you don't want to do that. It's going to come back to bite you. I've had people before. I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, this is an example. There's a hole in the wall for whatever reason, right? Maybe you closed the door too fast. The handle went through the wall, whatever it is. And the buyer says, hey, before closing, I want you to patch that up and paint that wall. Okay, great. So they patch it up and they paint that little 1 foot by 1 foot square around it. And that paint doesn't perfectly match the rest of the wall. So you can clearly see dark blue and light blue or whatever it is, right? Now we've got to go back to the contract. Here's where you want a well-written contract and you want to read, what does it say? It says paint the wall. Okay, well, is it the whole wall? Is it the part wall? Now you've got a legal issue, right? So you want to think of these things ahead of time while you're writing it up. Be very clear on what it is the expectations are, both sides. I've had it before where I see something written and I, as the listing agent, will say, I think I understand your intent. Let me ask you some questions. Would this work? Yes. Would this work? No. Okay, great. Then let's rewrite this like this so that we are very clear about what it is that's expected. Is that okay? Yes. Okay, great. Right. But at the end of the day, you might have issues with that. So you really want to ask questions if there's not clarity in something to make sure. If you're thinking, I'm not going to paint the whole wall, why not paint the whole wall? I'm just going to paint this little part. It could come back to bite you. So make sure you ask questions. At a minimum, ask your listing agent, hey, I'm thinking about just painting this 1 by 1 square foot around this hole. Is that going to suffice or do I got to do the whole doggone wall? Let your realtor tell you. If they know, great. If they don't know, they can reach out to an attorney and figure it out for you. They can reach out to your attorney. You can reach out to an attorney, whatever it is. But now you've got solutions to a problem before it becomes a problem, right? All right, next, your final walkthrough. You do not need to be at final walkthrough. Some sellers want to be at final walkthrough. Some listing agents want to be at final walkthrough. Personally, I like that time along with inspection time to be something where, hey, the buyer, the buyer's agent, you've got privacy, do your thing. If you've got questions or issues, feel free to call me. My phone's always on. That's how I feel. However, if you're a seller and you want to be there, sometimes the reason you would want to be there is if there's an issue, you want to be able to immediately see it, understand it, and respond. If you're not physically there, you might hear it over the phone, but you're like, I'm not understanding what it is. And if you were physically there, you could understand what it is, right? So there is a reason you would want to be there. Also, just kind of seeing the extent of it. Now, it is a little nice today versus 20 years ago when I sold real estate. If you've got a problem with something, you can send me a photo, a video, whatever it is. It makes things really quick and easy, right? But I've had before where you think everything's good. I'll give you an example. I had one a couple of weeks ago where I had the listing. We had gotten out of the house 2, 3, 4 days early. Buyer got there and said, hey, there's a puddle of water on the living room floor. And what is this? A leak? I'm looking up at the ceiling. I don't see any leak. I don't know what this is. And it ends up, the buyer said, oh yeah, we had something. I don't even remember what it was now. Maybe a plant. I can't remember. We were bringing it out and I saw it outside. I didn't see it inside. Had I would have cleaned it up. I apologize. That's what it is. You know, do you want us to come back and clean it up? We're happy to do it. And the buyer said, no, as long as I know what it is, we're fine with it. It's not that big a deal. We're just more worried about the leak than anything. But that can pop up, right? So they're going to go through, they're going to check to make sure that everything is in the same condition it was at the time of inspection, plus any repairs that were supposed to get done have gotten done. That doesn't mean it's got to be in perfect condition, right? If you had a broken window at inspection, they did not ask for the window to be fixed, and now you still have a broken window, That's okay. That's not a problem because you decided both as a buyer and a seller that you're both comfortable moving forward with that broken window. However, if it says seller will repair or replace broken window on the east side of the kitchen by closing, and they get there and it's still broken, it doesn't matter if you put a new window in and now it's broken. You still have to replace it. In fact, here's another thing. Let's say the window was in good condition. The window was inspected, and in the inspection it says all windows checked, all windows look good. Now at closing, you show up and there's a crack in the window. That's a problem. You got to replace that window or give them a credit or whatever it is the buyer wants that's reasonable. I shouldn't say you have to give it to them. You don't have to give it to them, but now you've got an issue with closing. They could say, I'm not signing the papers. They could sue you for damages. They could do all kinds of things, and you're probably going to lose that in court, right? I always say too, make sure that you're having your inspector inspect everything that you want the sellers to be accountable for. I'm going to give you an example where I had an attorney tell me, you're probably out of luck. It was a dishwasher. We showed up to the inspection. Inspector did their thing. Inspector left. Inspector sent us the report. Everything looked good on the report. We move forward. We get to final walkthrough. We're checking the water. We're checking the stove. We're checking the fridge. Try to turn the dishwasher on. It doesn't work. We asked the seller about it, and the seller says it's never worked. And I said, well, I don't remember that being in the inspection report. I look it up. The inspector specifically said in the inspection report, we do not check appliances other than anything noted below. And they had checked the fridge, and they said the fridge is cool. And that was it. So they didn't check any of the appliances. That is not typical. That's not what I've ever seen any inspector ever do. But this particular inspector that these buyers wanted, that's what they did. So I said, I don't know if we're going to be able to get this taken care of or not legally. I don't know what kind of leverage we've got. Let me call an attorney. The attorney said it's in the same condition it was in at the time of inspection, probably, right? You can't prove that it wasn't. You didn't inspect it and say that it was in bad condition. They say it is in the same condition that it was in at the time of inspection. So unless you can show something from a third-party inspector stating it wasn't, you're probably out of luck. So that's something to consider too. As you're going through, make sure you get a good inspector that you're happy with. Look through what it is they inspect, ask questions, look at reviews online. And if there's something specifically you're concerned about, go check it out. And you're there for an hour, hour and a half typically at these inspections. Go check things out. It's going to be your house. Go turn the water on. Go turn the tub on. Go flush the toilet. Open and close all the doors, the windows. Make sure you're happy with them. An inspector's a human too. We all make mistakes, even if we're professionals. Going and checking those things are only, at a minimum, going to get you more familiar with the home. At the max, it's going to help you find something the inspector otherwise would have missed. Now you can bring it up, get it notated, and it's something you might be able to negotiate while you're in that inspection contingency period. All right, last thing is the funnest thing, and that's signing the paperwork. What do you need when you sign? You just show up with an ID. Typically, that's all you need. If they need anything else, they're going to tell you that they need something else. Otherwise, it's going to be your driver's license or another government-issued ID. Typically, as a seller, it's going to take you 15, 20 minutes, and that's really about it. As a buyer, if you're cash, it's also about 15, 20 minutes to sign. If you've got a loan, then it's going to be 45 to 60 minutes because your paperwork goes from this to this. That's just how lenders are. Welcome to real estate, right? But it's usually pretty easy, pretty simple. You show up, you sign. As a seller, you can sign early. So if your closing is on a Friday and you plan on skipping town on Thursday after you clean out the house, you might be able to sign Wednesday afternoon. And a lot of times you can coordinate them coming to your house, or you might say, hey, I'm already going to be up in New Jersey. What do I do? You can tell the title company early. They can coordinate a mobile closer to meet you wherever in New Jersey. Maybe they got an office. Maybe they meet you at Starbucks. Maybe they meet you at your house up in New Jersey. It doesn't matter. And they can help you sign there, right? So signing is pretty simple as long as you communicate with title ahead of time. Let them know maybe 4, 5, 6 days ahead of time. They're going to be able to work with you no matter where you're at on just about any day you want within reason. And they're going to make it happen for you. Once you're done signing, typically you're going to get the funds if the funds are there, right? So if the funds have actually shown up, boom, they're going to wire the funds to you. I don't see anybody giving checks anymore. That was something I saw when I was in my 20s. I don't see that anymore. I suppose if you asked for one, maybe you could get a cashier's check or something like that. I just don't see it anymore. It's all wires, and the wire typically takes maybe an hour or two to go through. Now, sometimes they're still working on getting some of the funding work done and everything else, and you get the clear to close at 10 a.m. Well, then the wire is sent at noon, and then title receives that wire at 2 o'clock, and then they send it to you, and you get it at 4:40, right? But you signed at 9 a.m., or maybe you signed 1 or 2 days prior. So you should get the money same day, not always, but 95% of the time you're going to get the money the same day. And it's generally speaking going to be through a wire. If you want it another way, you can ask them prior, hey, can I get a cashier's check, or what's the other check called? I can't think of what the other one is, but you might be able to get that. I'm just, nobody asks, so I'm not even sure if that's possible anymore. But signing day is fun. It's easy. Boom, you get your money, you go on your merry way, right? So there you go. Again, the biggest thing I would say is making sure that all your, and when I say biggest thing, I mean where I see most people fail, getting all of your personal property out of the home that's not listed on the agreement. They're generally going to list your appliances, your washer, dryer, stuff like that, TV brackets, right? You leave those in there. But everything you're not supposed to have, get it out of there. If there's something you want to leave and it wasn't listed on the contract, maybe you've got a typical one is a fridge or a freezer out in the garage, right? It wasn't listed on the contract. Joe, we don't really care if we move it or not. Do the buyers want it? You can send me a photo. I can send it to the buyer's agent and say, hey, Ted, this is a freezer out in the garage. The sellers don't really care if they take it or leave it. It's free if your buyers want it. Would they like it to stay behind, or would they like the sellers to take it? And then it doesn't matter how if hey, we want you to take it, great. Hey, we want you to leave it, awesome. Doesn't really matter, right? But just ask those questions. I see a lot of people not asking the questions. The second one would be not cleaning the house, right? If you leave the house, and the number one thing I see is the fridge full of nasty crap, ketchup stains on the doors, whatever. You've got to clean that up. It doesn't need to be spit shine clean, but it's got to be decently cleaned. Go through, decently clean your house, and you'll be good. Those are the two biggest issues. So guys, there you go. Hopefully you have a great closing day now. You've got a little bit of preparation mentally on what that closing day needs to look like. If you've got any questions, or if there are things that you encountered on closing day that I didn't mention, I'd love to hear them in the comments. And if you've got a question for a future video, feel free to leave it in the comments or send me a private DM on Facebook. We're happy to go over that question. Guys, thanks for joining me. We're here every single Friday with You've Got Questions, I've Got Answers at 11 o'clock. Have a great weekend. Take care.